Greetings, my friends. It's your friendly neighborhood PhD, Dr. Judd Burton, bringing you another Beyond report on this Monday, September the 27th, 2021. As always, if you like the content, please do click a like, subscribe, and share. It does help the channel. I'm trying to grow this thing, and you're part of that growth, and I appreciate it. I want to start off with a couple of updates and a praise report, too. Remember, let's continue to keep Dr. Mike Heiser and his wife, Drenna, and family in prayers. Looks like he's going through the second round of chemo for his cancer. Let's also keep Rob Skiba and his wife, Sheila, and their family and close friends, physicians, in prayer. From what I understand, I had thought that Rob was doing a little bit better in ICU, but from what I understand, he's on a ventilator now. It should be off hopefully soon. They're working on getting him moved. I think that might have been part of the hang-up over the last week or so. Anyway, let's continue to keep the Skibas in prayer. And our buddy Kenny Seay seems to be doing better over at The Rock. He had a bout of COVID and has been keeping us updated, and he is feeling a lot better today. So, as it were, rock on, Kenny. So we're glad to hear that. In other news, the issue on the border continues to spiral out of control. It might be one way to put it. As of Friday, there were about 3,500 of the 15,000 or so encamped at Del Rio who were unaccounted for, just disappeared. So there's that, and it would seem that between 10 and 11,000 have already been released into the United States with their court hearing dates. God knows if they'll ever show up for those, because that's the drill. That's been the drill at the border for the longest time. And I can attest to that because I lived there for 10 years, and I had a front row seat to this debacle. So, well, there's so many facets to this story. Most of you probably seen how the left is spinning the use of horses and the photography and captions, trying to steer your emotions towards the fact that these Border Patrol agents are running down Haitians on horseback with whips. Okay, first of all, there are areas of that border country that's very rugged, and in some cases it's easier to work on horseback, work with horses in some of that rugged, remote country. Second of all, they're not whipping or roping these Haitian refugees. Those are the reins on the horses. There are obviously people on the left and in the media who have never ridden a horse or been around a horse. I'm a Texas boy, okay? I grew up next door to a guy that raised horses. I used to, not avidly, but I did used to ride them on occasion when I would go to a friend's house if they had a ranch or something. Those are reins, people. They're not whips or ropes. They're the reins of the horse. And yeah, sometimes they have to use those reins to get the horse to move. It's a big quadruped animal. That's why people that work on horses, like cowboys, Border Patrol, all kinds of law enforcement, if they have to work in these kinds of environments, you have to have a certain kind of tack, including reins and not infrequently spurs. It's not cruelty to be using these on the animal, and they're certainly not whipping It's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. You talk, simple fact of the matter is you got people that are brainwashed to think one way, and secondly have obviously never been around or on or worked with horses in their lives. It's just ridiculous. So there's no, the Border Patrol is not abusing these undocumented individuals who are coming into the country. Um, but in recent videos that I've made, including a Beyond report, and most notably the last Quick Classics that I did on the Battle of Adrianople, drawing parallels between what's going on our southern border and what happened to Rome in the 4th century on their northeastern border with the Visigoths and the Alans. I've been talking about the border issue for, you know, for a bit, and just as I had on my own videos, this past weekend, our good friend Derek Gilbert and myself recorded an episode of View from the Bunker, dealing with the spiritual ramifications here, the spiritual implications, and we talked about that many of these Haitians are going to be practitioners of voodoo, and they're going to be bringing the supernatural contraband over the border. And I would certainly encourage you to listen to that podcast when it's up. It should be up, I want to say this coming weekend, so the first weekend in October it should be up, Saturday or Sunday. And we just had a really engaging and I think pertinent and timely conversation about the dangers of voodoo, and that its theology rests on spirit possession and communication with their gods, the Loas, and their ancestor spirits, friend spirits, spirits of what they think are dead humans that have passed along. This gets into very dangerous territory. This is the kind of necromantic activity that's outlined in the Bible that you see heavy proscription against. And there, of course, there's a reason for that, because they're certainly trafficking in dead spirits. And this is a practice that goes back into prehistory with ancestor cults and cults of the dead, post-flood with the Rephaim, of course, who I think are the culprits here. So they're certainly contacting the dead, but it's not it's not their dead loved ones or ancestors or people who have passed along. It's the dead spirits, the spirits of the dead Nephilim and Rephaim, in particular, in the underworld, who are communicating and play acting or masquerading as their loved ones. Now, this is nothing new really for the border region, because there are other traditions like the more nefarious Brujeria, but also Santeria and Curanderismo, which all are these syncretistic religions that on the one hand grafts Roman Catholicism with, in the case of the Caribbean religions, West African beliefs from the Yoruba and other tribes, and in the case of Curanderismo and Brujeria, with both with European beliefs and with the Mesoamerican religious beliefs as well. So at the center of all this is necromancy, this and also spirit possession, actually being possessed by their gods. This is foundational for voodoo, and so that's one component of the border crisis that right now that involves the people from Haiti, that is just not being talked about, covered in the news, hardly by anybody. I haven't heard much mention outside of the conversation that I've had with Derek. So I would invite you to tune in and listen to this upcoming podcast this weekend on View from the Bunker. So on that note, you know, we're coming up on the season of Halloween, and if you know anything about the history of Halloween, and similar rites, practices, ceremonies, and festivals, religious observances around the world in many traditions, You know that it's a time when people believe that the veil between this world and the next world is thinnest, and you can better engage in necromancy and the uh, trafficking with spirits, communicating with spirits, if you will. So this is a very dangerous time, um, and it's prompted me to develop coursework like the program Preternatural Morphology and Biblical Demonology, and I I would encourage you again to prayerfully consider taking coursework with me on this stuff. Particularly, now's a good time to get into these subjects because, um, there are people around the world that are engaging in these practices. Some in your own neighborhood. So I would just encourage you to do that because it will not only support what I do with the Institute of Biblical Anthropology and Burton Beyond, but it helps to equip you. Uh, with certain tools, intelligence, if you will, in sort of a military stratagem sense. And so that's why this week I've got a number of specials. The big one is the Hunter's Kit, and I'm extending that from last week. So the Hunter's Kit is for $150. You can choose between these timely programs like Preternatural Morphology that deals with vampires and werewolves and revenants and ghouls and demons and giants and all kinds of things. Biblical demonology sort of speaks for itself, and mythology, which gives you a broader perspective on what some of these entities are. Plus, you get a print copy of Interview with the Giant and a print copy of my edited volume of Edith Kelley's Book of Halloween, which is a very good treatment of the history of Halloween. You'll get a lot of good information from that book. Uh, each one of the 6 certifications, including the 3 that I just mentioned, plus ancient Near East civilization, Mediterranean civilization, and of course the flagship program, Biblical Anthropology, all of those are on sale for $115 each. And so if you're interested in those, you can email me at professorburton@yahoo.com and we'll get you registered. And that sale will go through the end of this week with a new session starting in the first full week of October. Books are on sale also this week for 10% off, so you can get some really good teaching material and information from my bookstore. I do have some appearances, both recent in the past and upcoming. I mentioned the View from the Bunker episode. I also recently done an episode with Daniel Ott on The Edge radio. And upcoming in October, in fact, October the 15th is when it launches, is the next Defender virtual conference, which is largely going to be dealing with the Great Delusion and the revealing of the disclosure, basically, of UFO alien reality. And I'll be giving a presentation for that, and would invite you to check it out. I think the early bird price is something like $85 or something like that, but still altogether a really good deal because it's streaming and you can download it, you can watch whichever ones you want, you can binge watch it. I'll be presenting, Derek and Sharon Gilbert will be presenting, L.A. Marzulli. It's just going to be a really good conference, so I'd encourage you to check it out. Okay, people, Godspeed. Pray for our country, pray for our world. Let us be prophetically minded and also mission minded at the same time. Godspeed, and may the love of Jesus Christ be with you.